each of them through before you start any form of policy formulation and implementation. And if you follow these 4 things that I said simultaneously, you can start solving the problem. And it is not that Nigerians are not going to go through hardship. They're going to go through hardship and difficulties, but it won't be as it is today. What we have today is a question of what I said. We are still trapped in the process and thinking of yesterday. And if you're trapped in that process, you will not meet tomorrow. For example, number one issue is corruption. If the key people, all of us politicians, decide we'll end it, starting from the number one person. If you're not involved, those around you are not involved, you reduce it by 50%. And I'm not talking about chasing people who have stolen in the past. I'm talking that will be dealt with in separate note, but saying that forthwith from today, nobody will continue on that path. We will ensure that all the revenues of this country are accounted, they're transparently held, and would judiciously utilized. Number two is to deal with the issue of cost of governance. I was just talking with somebody yesterday who was able to convince me, because they had an argument. What I mean, when I finish, you know what he convinced me. But he had an argument which some people supported at an airport while we were waiting for flight at Asaba Airport. Was able to tell me how it is not huge a cost for states to own plane, states, governors to fly private jets, people in government to do the same and everything. And when he finished, I asked him a simple question. What is the GDP of Nigeria? And he said it's about $400, $500 billion. I said, what is per capita of Nigeria? Per capita of Nigeria. It is important that we know this. He said the same thing. I said the per capita is about 2,000. I said, fine. So you have a GDP of 400 billion. That is your entire country. And a component of that country, some people are qualified to fly private jet and do this. I said, okay, we have borrowed this democracy from United States of America. So it's good to go back there and see how it works, just to learn a little bit. I said, are you aware that there's a state in America called California? He said, yes. I said, that state in America is about 3.6 trillion GDP. So if you're 400, there are 9 times your size. He was looking at me and said, there are 3 times your size. He said, well, we're not talking about America. I said, no. There are 9 times your size. And that state have a per capita that is about call it 30 times minimum. I know per capita in America, in California, is about $60,000-$70,000. So I said they have about 30 times your per capita. And I can tell that if governor of California decides to go to Washington and he charter and he goes into goes with a private jet, he will not land in Washington before he or she is removed from office. He does not have a lodge in Washington. He stays in a hotel. And he cannot stay in a hotel where he will pay $2,000 a night. He will not wake up in the morning before they remove him. That man or woman will not be seen in streets of LA with 10 vehicle convoy. He will go the next day. So sometimes the things you see. So these are things we need to deal with. And then subsidy. Asset is a criminal setup. And I thank Governor Issa Yaguna, who came out recently to say that somebody, a friend of his, came to him and said he's tired of making money from this. My dear people, you know what it means for somebody to say, I don't want to continue this style of making money. That this subsidy is a crime. And we must stop this crime. I think if I was in government, I would have invited Issa, my brother, and kneel down and beg him to introduce this fellow to me. Because I need him as a friend. I haven't repented to help me in dealing with this. It is this criminal component of it. If you look at my tweet, first I was able to show that the quantity they say we consume is twice what we are supposed to consume. And I gave instance, compared it with a country, Pakistan. Similar population have more road network than we have. I don't know whether they have more car or not, but they use half or less of what we consume. So that's where you will start. That's why if you look at my tweet, I said, I will reduce 50% of what we already pay for the subsidy. Having reduced that, you try to remove the criminal component of it. By the time we finish with all this, you will see in a clear, verifiable figures what is the actual subsidy we're paying, which at this time, having removed the corruption, having removed the criminality, will be far less than what we were paying. You now say, I'm going to take away component of this. In the meantime, I said, I'm going to remove it. I'm going to take away component of this in the meantime. So this fuel is now, say, 190. We're not going to have it at 350 or thereabout, or 400, as the case may be. And this again, further, this is what we are going to save. This is a new thing you're trying to do. You must be transparent, open. People must see it. They must feel it. We are going to save this. And whatever we save, we are going to apply it in critical areas of development. And these are as follows: education, health, pulling people out of poverty, resuscitating our infrastructure. And we're going to have it for this period. So we have moved from where we are to this new place. It's going to be difficult, but remember that we all said we are going to sacrifice. Because we have now tamed corruption, because we have now removed the wastages in governance and people are seeing it, and you are now coming into trying to manage this subsidy situation, there's more variable facts. So, like we said in the first 1 month, we've saved 400 billion. What did we do with it? Where did we take it to? Are we going to say, okay, 8 months, because they say we are owing them 1.1 billion or 1.1 billion? Okay, in 2 months from our savings, I'm going to clear that.
All right. So
Are we going to say?
I would like to make it in a way that you don't touch on education, because we have people that have questions for you on education.
No, I'm not touching education. I'm just giving you an example. I'm just going to say where you're going to play, because you must tell us what we saved, what is going to go. Are we going to say the most important where we get this money we share is a place like Niger Delta? They have one critical road, East-West Road. The last time I checked, we need about 300 to 400 billion to complete it. This is our saving. We are throwing it into East-West Road, so these people can see it. These are things we need to do. These are the different things we need to do. Saddam have governed the state. It was difficult. But what I told the people is that this must be demand-driven. Whatever you think Peter is not doing, or where he's saving the money or taking money, it must be applied to where you see it visibly. And the moment the people started seeing it, even politicians on the other side started working with me. So, thank you.
All right,
That's my initial introduction.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. All right, let's move on real quick. I think David fell off. David, if you're on the space, please. I don't know if you can. I can't see you. I think I saw you and you disappeared. So I think I'll come to N6 right now. N6, you have the space, please. You can go on with your question.
All right, sir. Good evening, Your Excellency. You're one of the few Nigerian politicians who answers Your Excellency, and in all your doings, you have remained excellent. My question has to do with education. With all the problems Nigerians are going through, about a week ago, we saw an increase in school fees nationwide at all tiers. Increase in Unilag school fees, increase in school fees for Unity schools, secondary schools. As a governor, one of your biggest milestones was in education. It's one of the proudest legacies you left behind as well. How would you have handled the Nigerian educational system, this rise in school fees prices, and just, if you can answer this in 5 minutes, I won't mind. Thank you, sir.
Okay, very quickly, my brother. As a country, we have universal basic education. That means that the primary up to year 9 is free. The basic education. I've always argued that it should be primary and secondary school. For me, that's what it should be. Should be free. As you know, the most important yardstick, tool, critical, whatever I call it, measure of development today is education. The more educated you are, the more developed you are. The only difference between developing, and underdeveloped countries is education. That is the measure. Because people look at your human capital, which today you could see we're in the lower, we're one of the worst. People look at what you're doing in education, you're funding everything. So for me, when I mention issue of savings from subsidy, after you've done the right things to make sure that it's not where we are today, your investment should be in that critical area of development, especially in the north, but it's all over Nigeria. You need to invest aggressively in education, in health, and in pulling people out of poverty. We started with education. So for me, the basic education, which is primary and secondary school education, will be free. I will work with the states to fund it aggressively. We did it as governors, and what we did is to say, it doesn't matter to me whether it's private, private, public, owned by agencies and anything, we are going to support it aggressively. And that is what we need to take back. Encourage those in private, encourage them, just do whatever everybody is doing all over the world. How much do we spend per child? It is critical, it's important. On the tertiary, especially university, yes, I said we have to have different models, which we must do. The government must state, this is our contribution, which will be very clear annually to support university education and going to universities based on their population. Thereafter, there will be another component which must come because corporations today need those human products as part of their own production system. There will be those taxes you're collecting for education must go into supporting tertiary education. And then you now come with the component which you mentioned, issue of loan. It won't come in straight away. So initially, you have to bear this cost until you're able to have a properly articulated loan procedure, which will allow students in some areas, because it's not in every area, when you start, in some area, to have access to this loan, because you're sure when they leave school, they will be able to get a job that allows them to pay for this. With all this combination, you're going to have a better educational system, a quality educational system, because you're not going to have a situation where teachers are going to be trained, the right equipment for teaching at the primary edition, then at university level, lecturers, everything, they can hire and do this and all that. Not a situation where I can tell you some of the people who were giving job in various universities in Nigeria in the past 2 years have not been paid anything. And the lecturers, imagine how they're lecturing, imagine how they're living. These are things when we talk about saving money or saving costs of governance, where you're going to channel them to.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very
All right.
much for answering my question, sir. Thank you.
All right. As we await David to come back, I think we'll just move on right now to Ibrahim. Ibrahim, if you can hear me, please unmute your mic and speak. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sadem. Thank you, Your Excellency, for being here with us. I'm from the north. I can say my question directly going to go on agric because that's what I think will be one of the most commitments that you are going to give to the northern part of the country. And you have cited a lot of examples to us when you are doing your campaign about the issue. But in the economic aspect of it, I found it very difficult to comprehend and understand what really happened to the country. For example, we have different programs done by the previous government, and also this government has declared state of emergency on food production. And my worry is just that before they said we don't have fertilizer blending companies, they are just like 3 or 5, and they have like 50. But the cost of food in the market is still high. So I want to relate what is the input government putting into the system, and also food is getting more expensive. Let me give you another example. We have more, what they call them, rice millers now, in almost getting in hundreds of them. Which one of the rice miller, as you said, you are part of the people that helped him to develop. And then this government, the previous government of APC, put a lot of money into it. So my worry is that rice is still very expensive. It's not affordable to the young. It costs almost about 43,000 naira per bag. Fertilizer is costing about 30,000 naira per bag. And the insecurity in the northern part of the country, if you can see Zamfara and other places, people have to pay tax for them to do their to go to their farm. And another thing that is scaring us is that the more in these villages bring out this produce to the city is by transport. And this subsidy issue is so affecting the rice issue. So with all this, the word that Saddam don't want us to put, the renew, whatever that we used to call it, which everybody is feeling today. So my question is directly to you, sir. Help us to understand the economics. If it happens that you become the president in the next 2 or 3 months, what will you do different so that at least this rising cost of food would at least go down for Nigerians to benefit from being a Nigerian that have a very wide and very big fertile land for us to do agriculture? How do we get this food? Because food is the main security that we can have, because even the education, everything, we need to get food.
Well, thank you, Ibrahim. Ibrahim, I've said a lot about the issue of agriculture and issue of implementation of various policies, projects, various schemes of the past. What you're experiencing is poor implementation of those schemes. They were not properly executed. They were not properly channeled where they should go. They've all become transactional schemes, transactional policies that went into the same tunnel of corruption. So in the end, they actually, instead of helping to ameliorate the situation, worsened it. The North, I've said, is going through a major problem today that is bordered on poverty, mass poverty. And if you want to solve that problem, you have to pull people out of poverty, and agriculture is #1 item to solve that problem, because there are vast uncultivated land that we need to cultivate. Nigeria can make more money from agriculture, can earn more from export billions of dollars from agriculture that the president earns from oil. And I've given several examples, which I don't need to go back into. Because you've seen me, Brian, you followed me everywhere where I say that Niger State alone is 2.5 times the size of Netherlands. And if Netherlands can do export of agricultural products in 1 year of over $120 billion, which is about 6 times what Nigeria earns from oil, Nigeria can do more. We can earn more from it. And we will be able to do today in Dubai, small space, the same holidays or holiday anything, they are now doing quite a number of agricultural products. We have massive uncultivated land in Boronu, 70,000 square kilometers, which again is about not exactly, but about 2.5 times the size of Netherlands. So we have opportunities that are there. And to pull people out of poverty is to invest in this land. But you have to do it through the right channel. You have to do it properly. It has to be through verifiable and means people can see. Governance is a very simple thing. If we said, you talk about having more rice mills, having more this and everything. For example, Ibrahim, I will show you how anchor borrowers program have been implemented in other countries. I show you how growers have implemented in other countries. Who did we give money for the art growers? How did we channel the funding for it? The rice millers, are they the ones we are funding in order to fund properly those who are going to supply them inputs? So if it's a rice mill, are we supporting the big miller to be able to support those who are going to support in paddy to be able to give us the rice? Who are we dealing with? And what are we trying to achieve? I said in economic program, you must think it through. We can change all that and do it properly. When it's transparently implemented, it will work. It is not something we need to go far to find, whether it's the fertilizer or anything. All these are not coming down, Ibrahim, because it's based on transaction. Otherwise, it will be cheaper, it will be competitive, because labor is cheaper. First is that, how are we doing it? Ibrahim, we have a Bank of Agriculture, domiciled in Kaduna. And this is being implemented to the Bank of Agriculture. Who are the beneficiaries of this loan? Are they farmers? Are they politicians? These are questions. Who are those who are involved? I have seen this. I've seen people Even in my own state, when we came in, there was a standing agricultural loan. When we tried to recover it, none of the loans went to farmers. The funds ended up in hands of politicians. It must be proper. It must go directly to those who need it, and it must be followed up to ensure that we're getting value for that. If we do it, the prices will come down. We'll use it to pull people out of poverty. We will do more. Ibrahim, you know we've been to, and I'm sure you can still do it today, go to prisons and see those who are involved with kidnap and killings. They will tell you how much they are paid for an operation. It is 30, 40, 50,000. Which means if they have something they're doing that can give them that amount every month, that's it. The more you pull people out of poverty, the more you reduce the criminality. This needs to be properly implemented. This must be preached. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I think it's only justice I pass the mic right now to a lady, Miss Barriat, and our first female question of the day. Miss Barriat, if you can hear me, you have the space. Good evening.
Hi, Saddam. Can you hear me?
Loud.
Perfectly.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go on, please.
Perfectly. Continue.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Ms. Barrias, we can hear you.
So, good evening, Your Excellency.
Okay, Saddam, she might need to log out and come back
as I
again.
always refer to you as my president. So, as I am here, I am speaking to my president, and I believe every other person listening knows that we are listening to our president speak to us, the man we know we voted for on the 25th of February. Here is my question, sir, just to follow up on what Ibrahim Abdul Karim has already asked you. I am a trader, just as you always introduce yourself. I am in the agricultural sector. I trade in fruits and veggies. And one of the biggest complaints that a lot of the farmers right now, always talk about has to do with logistics and multiple taxes that they face from the farms to the market. So my question to you, Your Excellency, my president, our president, how would you handle the issues relating to the logistics involved in transporting food from farms to around the infrastructures and the multiple taxation that these drivers and farmers face from to the market? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, my sister, for that question. I know Ibrahim mentioned it. First, let me start by answering it, since that at times I just get, how did we arrive here? If the colonial masters was able to build a rail in the 60s to make sure that they transport the food from the north, Kanu, everywhere in the north, to the south and to export. What has changed today? These are 60s. I went to southern Kaduna and I saw rail in Kafanchan. Somebody said to me from Kafanchan, they used to load agricultural products that go to Lagos. If that happened in the 60s, why can't we do it today? On the issue of multiple taxation, all those, again, is bordered on corruption and transaction, which when you are determined to eliminate it, will be able. Where are the corporations which government can support and be able to get, by the time you have proper support that are channeled in the right direction? A Bank of Agriculture is in the north supporting all this, where there's stringent rules that nobody can play with, you get it solved. And then because you're interfacing with these farmers like you, because like I said, it's a learning process too. Because the government is determined to do it, they will listen to the farmers. Yes, there's issues of insecurity. Ibrahim mentioned the farmers can't go to farm. Yes, that is number one job of government, to secure the people. So if you're determined to do all this, we've spent enough money in security. I do not see how non-governmental actors will be more active, more daring than government. It is because what we spend in dealing with insecurity are also somehow immersed in this transactional life. You just criminalize the place. So this is time to do things now differently, involving all levels of government, from the community level to local government level to state level to national level, with clear mandates, clear implementation plan, that at any time there's a problem, all those involved will be dealt with. If you do that, you see it differently. When we lend money to farmers, it will shock you. Jenny farmers in Anambra State, we were able, apart from flooding, which occurred a particular year, to recover about 70%. Flooding came and worsened it. When we lent the proper farmers, we were able to see increased production, and we visited them. So it's not just me sitting down in Oka saying, we're giving money to farmers who came to Oka. No. We went to their local government, went to their villages, we went to see everything. So when they had flooding, we were able to intervene to even save those who had loans from other areas, because we could see what they're doing. And again, to build the proper infrastructure that gives them access to the markets. And all these are doable if we're determined to do the right thing.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Ibrahim, you say you want to have a follow-up question on agriculture real quick?
Another follow-up question is just for me to testify to what Apple Hetty is saying. For example, in Kaduna and also in Sokoto, I've seen these roads. They call them the agriculture. It's a fund for in the agriculture department in the Ministry of Agric to develop rural roads. But in my area, for example, in Sokoto, I think Locust Guiwa, I have seen a project given to one of the directors still around that place. and they build the road. As I talked to you today, anyone that is in Kaduna, if you know the house of the immediate former agric minister, if you go there, you will see the road being done with that kind of fund. So I think what Mr. Pio is saying is really true. Most of these funds end up in the pocket of politicians because they are not doing the right thing. So money and system and document has been designed to help Nigerians to make sure that this food has become a little bit cheaper, but because this money end up in the pocket of people. This is just the intervention I just want to give. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ibrahim. Thank you. I think Otumba, you're meant to come in now with your questions. I don't know if you're ready.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Thank you, Your Excellency, sir. My question is still on the economy. Given the economic downturn, we're seeing multinational companies report massive losses. From Cadbury, I think they had 20 billion in losses. MTN, 131 billion in losses. The NGX, 232 billion. Nigerian Breweries, 71 billion. Guinness Nigeria, 18 billion. Airtel is, I think they reported about $151 million in losses. And a lot of this is attributed to the floating of the Naira. We've seen the dollar, we see the Naira weaken against the dollar. We've seen Naira weaken against the British pounds. If you were in charge of the economy, which we hopefully you will be soon, what economic policies would you help implement around the floating of the Naira? And also to reduce, these losses? Because as just an ordinary person, seeing these losses to me translates to budget cuts for those companies, which translates to either layoffs, massive layoffs, or reduction in employment opportunities for Nigerians that work in those companies. So, what will you do around the floating of the Naira? Thank you.
My brother, let me tell you, if you look at my tweets about the issue of Naira exchange, I mentioned it in that tweet I mentioned about 19th of September last year. First is that what you have that is affecting your Naira value is the value of your reserve. And what drives your reserve is export earning. And what drives the export earning is production. Because your sources of revenue, as far as foreign exchange is concerned, is oil, which most of it is stolen. You have no agriculture. You're not exporting enough. Your factories are not producing enough for export. You have difficulty in dealing with the issue of earning dollars that would have increased your reserve and helped to stabilize and reduce your rate of exchange. What we have recently is every country in the world, I can tell you, manages the rates of its exchange. Yes, they will tell you you can float it, but you can't float without knowing or managing your supply. You can't float what you don't have. I believe that the rate of exchange Naira was overvalued. For me, the first step would have been to do the things I won't say here that I would have done to be able to get some funding that would have allowed you first devalue the currency, because it's overvalued where you have a situation where you have 450 official rate and almost 750 as parallel market rate, which was allowing all sorts of things. If we had moved from 450 to about 600 or thereabout, and be able to still manage it by getting enough money to meet up existing obligations. Corporations and people will lose money, but not meeting those existing obligations will increase confidence for people to come back into the market. And then, remember, one of the things that a foreign exchange rate is unproductive money that's all over the place, which I call the corruption side of it. Because some of this exchange rate that is going up and everything, the dollars are not being purchased by those who are using it for productive purposes. It is being purchased and used for corruption purposes, which everybody is involved. So you can stop it. Today, you know, for various political activities, and people in government are now transacting in dollars. It is an open secret. So we are in difficulty. Some of this we have to start doing it differently. I'm not going to say, that's why I said I will not be dwelled in the process of yesterday. I'll be dwelled in the process of today. When I was in government as a state, we decided to have what we call subnational savings. And that was why in Anambra State, we were able to have, by the time I left, $150 million in savings. We said we're going to divide our savings into three. One should be in foreign currency. Since we trade in dollar, let's save in dollars. One should be in naira. The other will be in investments, shares and stocks and bonds, and local bonds. And that's what we did. So I have $150 million in savings. You've read in God's book, I refer to it every day, where he said, I supported savings, because I know what the reserve would have been. If you ask Mr. Ganga, who was there, who actually was the architect of the Sovereign Wealth Fund, he would tell you that if there's a governor who gave him all the support, I was there. So, for me, the things we would have done differently, because we didn't do it in the past, we're suffering now, but we can start today to do it. If we had done the right things and be manage the rate more effectively, and then support all exportable items in order to earn revenue, stop the oil stealing, which the government have said they're stopping and everything. I said that I was a little bit disappointed that we caught a ship that had 8,000 with about 8,000. All we needed to do, 800,000, not 8,000, 800,000. And they said and that ship was supposed to be operating 800,000, and that ship was supposed to be operating for 12 years. For 12 years. Nobody cared to say if that ship had been operating for 12 years, for 12 years, for 12 years, what has he been doing for 12 years? Where has he been for 12 years? It's very important. But rather, what we did is to say, destroy it. We don't need to destroy it. I would have seized it, ensure that they explain what they've been doing for 12 years. Nobody have told us what they've been doing for 12 years. They just said it's been around there and doing similar operations for 12 years. These are issues. So if we get it right, I believe we can earn more dollars. I believe we'll stabilize the currency and everything, and that makes more meaning.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. All right. I think we'll take.
Can I? Okay.
Excuse, okay. Before you go on, I just wanted to take a quick quote from what our principal just said right now. He said, basically, you can float the naira. Basically, you can't float the naira when you have not made sufficient moves to take the country from consumption to production. I think that is, for me, a quote. I'm going to put it out right there on Twitter for Nigerians to understand. We are speaking economics here. All right, NCC, I think you can come right now with the quick interlude questions. Please go on.
Good evening, Your Excellency. My name is N6. I have more than a decade's experience in radio and media. And I want to ask you a question about a huge, intangible, but it's going to be a big problem that happened after this election. I don't know if you might understand this question, but please give me time. This election has destroyed whatever fabric of national unity we have. The politicians weaponized tribalism, they weaponized ethno-religious sentiments, and they really split Nigerians apart. The Yoruba and the Igbo, the North versus the South, and they've done this, they did it at national level, they did it at state level. When we sit and talk about Nigeria, we always focus on education, health, this, that, this, places that have verifiable data to tackle. But how do you datify the unity of this country? So please, sir, I want to ask you, do you have a plan when you get into power? Because you surely will. There's no technicality that is going to stop that. When you get into power, sir, is there a plan to sew Nigerians back together again? Or do you think that in your grand scheme of tackling poverty and also alleviating the Nigerian, hopefully the Nigerian GDP and all these things, that the tribalism issue will die off with our prosperity? I always thought it would, but it's sad to see these things happen again. You saw our opponents going as far as Yoruba, Ronu, and things like that. Sir, my question is on national unity. We are highly fragmented at this point. What do you have in mind to get Nigeria back together as a country, loving each other, for us to be able to achieve all these things you have? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Let me be honest with you. I've been asked this question several times. And what I'll tell them is exactly what I'm going to tell you now. It's actually at times good that all these things are coming out. When in 2015, I campaigned across Nigeria, then with Jonathan, I saw this happen, where Northerners were like, we don't want to hear anything We don't want to see you. We're not. So, and there were so many attractive proposals, campaign promises by Buhari then, and he was voted into office. 8 years after, I did not see, maybe there is, I'm just saying, any reduction in the poverty in the North. I did not see where the North was buying bread cheaper than the South. I did not see where food, like Ibrahim said now, was cheaper in the North than the South. There was no improvement. They were not more secured. There was nothing they would say they celebrated for that, taking that ethnic stand. Today, we're seeing a similar situation in the Southwest, where people think it is our turn, we don't care, it's not this and everything, because the politicians use this as a tool for competition, especially when they're incompetent. So they hire tools of division, tools of ethnicity. And I've asked people, can they show me where they buy bread cheaper in Ibadan? Is cost of rice or food cheaper in Ibadan? Is cost of petroleum cheaper in Ibadan? Is there anywhere people in Ibadan are buying fuel today 300 naira and people in the east are paying 600? Is there anywhere they're buying bread 500 while people in the north are paying 1,000? Same thing is what happens with religion. Because people will say to you, oh, he's playing a religious card, he's doing this. Show me where the Muslims buy bread cheaper. I can tell you, Christians will go there and worship with them and buy the bread and come out and continue what they're doing. Show me where Christians are buying bread cheaper. Muslims will come there and buy the bread and go back. I went to a secondary school, Christ the King College in Onitsha. And I wasn't just a student anybody would say, you don't know in Christ the King College. I even became the deputy discipline prefect. So everybody that went to that school would tell you knows Mr. P2B. We had students that were Muslims. We had students with other different Christian denominations. On Fridays, our Muslim students will go in Onitsha. They will go to mosque in Onitsha then. That's how I knew the mosque and where it was in Onitsha. They will go to mosque on Fridays. On Sundays, we will go to church. Those who are Catholics will go to Catholic. Those who are Anglicans will go to a neighboring school, DMDS, for their own, everybody. We didn't know what was religion. I went to University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Again, nobody who passed through Nsukka will tell you while I was there, he does not know Peter Obi. Then you're not in the part of that school. What I mean, not that everybody knows me. There might be people who don't know me, who don't even remember me, but If there's popular students in the school, I'm one of them. So we had a lot of Muslims. We had people from different Christian denominations. A lot of Muslims, you know. Nobody thought about where you're coming from. We had people. My senior brother went to school in University of Maiduguri. We used to go to Enugu for him to enter train to go back to Maiduguri. This were not in 60s. This were late 70s, early 80s. So it's not even 60s. So all these things were just tools that recently were brought into this to show divide, and sewing it together, my brother, is as easy as ABC. Once you bring back what I normally say, character, capacity, competency back, and people can see that they are participating in this, they are part of it because they are qualified, they are this, all this will disappear. I live in Onitsha, I live in Lagos. I'm involved in some of these companies you're talking. Nobody knows where anybody's coming from. What we're looking for, when we're looking for directors, is people who are competent. Yes, there might be an argument of, okay, in order to balance it, we need one person from Southwest, from Southeast, from this, from that, which are already enshrined in our Constitution. Our Constitution already said federal character. We have to bring people from different areas, but we have to bring people who are competent. It's been shown in our football system. Just yesterday, all those who played for us in the 80s was remembered by APIS. All those of them, Odebami, Christian Chukwu, everybody, he brought all of them to Lagos, hosted them, gave each of them about 1.5 million naira each, told each of them they're going to be flying his plane for free. He wants them to be looked after and everything. He didn't say, I want people who play for Rangers. He wanted people who did this at national. When they met me in hotel, you'll be shocked. Owoblo, all these people that we used to hear their name. That's what it used to be. You can bring it back with effortless ease. Today, there's a lot of intermarriage between the North, the East, the Southwest, the Southeast. It's going to the stage in Lagos, nobody even know the difference. Most of the marriages that I attended, I was in a funeral just on Thursday of somebody I can call a mother, fantastic woman, but it's a Yoruba woman. We live in the same block of flats where this woman is, I don't know how to describe her. She was just an extraordinary mother who every day will make sure that he comes in and say, Peter, you're not doing this. Peter, you did this or this. Everybody in the compound is fond of her. So these are things you can deal with easily. I've said when I was campaigning, Ibrahim can say that the North will celebrate me because I know the problem of the North. The West will do the same thing because I know the problem of the... Because today, nobody can tell me the problem of the North because I know the problem of the North. As a banker, we used to get all the cash we need from Kanu. Today, Kanu is dead. The industries in Empire 1 is dead. Shadan 1 is dead. Shadan 2 is dead. We used to have cash from Medugri. It's all dead. I know the problems in the east. I know the problems in the west. And that's what we need to deal with. I took time to explain to you the things that brings us together. Sports. Today, there's no more sports in terms of what it used to be. At the time, nations are celebrating their huge leagues. All you hear Nigerians talking about is about Manchester, Man U, Chelsea, this. Where's our local league? Yes, people used to do that before to play even what do you call it again? To all this lottery, what do you call it again? Pool. They do pool with it, but they were still following Rangers, all the other clubs like ICC, Mighty Jets, all those things were being followed everywhere. So these are things we must go back to. People who were playing in different places were not even from there. Their Twebus were playing for Mighty Jets in North, but their Twebus were from Anambra State. People were playing for Rangers, and they are from the North. You know, you had a Matsemeka who were from Port Harcourt. I don't care about playing for. So, these are where we must go back to. In terms of our entertainment, you can see it everywhere. The Nigerian youth don't know the difference between Davido and other stars in film, in everything. These are what we should encourage. And then throughout this, politicians bringing things that divide us, or telling you, oh, Peter Obi is tribalistic, oh, Peter Obi. How? Where? I've governed the state. I've run corporations. I've supported this thing. I can tell you there's a company that is 100% owned by people from the Southwest that I chaired. I didn't even have one share in it, just one. And I was the chairman, and the company was doing well. So we can go back to it. We can sew it together very easily. There's competent people all over Nigeria. Just like all of you are scattered here, there's competent people all over Nigeria that we can work with and be able to show that it is a united country.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
God bless you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think how you went in on that. Thank you. All right, I'm bringing David. David has been falling off. I think, David, your enemies don't want you to speak today, but I am sure as David conquered Goliath, you have conquered them. So please, David, I want you to come in right now and show them that you are also a conqueror. Please, you have this space. Good evening, my brother.
Good evening, Saddam. So I'm just going to keep my question very brief. And I'm first of all, I'm going to give some background as to why I'm asking this question. Now, it's been well known that the fuel subsidy regime was unsustainable. It had to go. Preferably should have gone as far back as 2012, wasted an extra 10 years, etc., etc. Regardless of what happened on February 25, the fact is the fuel subsidy was never going to remain in place because the outgoing administration had already not made any budgetary provision for it. Now, that has been used as an argument to state that, well, you know, even if the results that were announced had gone differently, and even if Peter Obi had been announced as president and he had, he was sworn into office on May 29th, that the economic carnage that we are witnessing would have been the same. That it wouldn't have made any difference who was president. Now, I beg to disagree. I believe that the way it was handled, the way the announcement was made in itself, and the way the initial first 2 or 3 weeks of the subsidy removal were handled were what directly led to this huge slowdown in economic activity that we are witnessing, and this extreme spiking of fuel prices. Now, the question is, if Peter Obi was the one who was midwifing that transition from subsidy to no subsidy regime, what would Peter Obi have done different in such a way that the extremely negative effects that it has had on businesses, on people's ability to even travel to work, all sorts of things like that? What difference would Peter Obi's handling of the situation have made?
David, first I will tell you, election took place on 25th of February. Result was announced when? About the 1st of March. Between the 1st of March and May 29th is a clear, call it about almost 90 days. Within these 90 days, I'm sorry to say it, I would have been able to have a respectable economic team that would have sat down with me. Even as I talk now, if you say Peter Obi is president tomorrow, I'll give it to you in 1 month. Respected Nigerians that can sit down and will say, this is where we're going to go. If we're going to remove subsidy, I said it again, look at my tweets. We're going to pull it. It's like when you have multiple fractures. You're not going to deal with all of it immediately. It's something you need to remove it one after the other. I said we'll remove the corruption side of it. So we know the actual subsidy we're paying. There's so many components in this subsidy that when you listen to, because I've listened to some experts make their comments, you remove that. Having removed that, you now decide on the component of subsidy, whether it's budgeted or not. If it's, for example, when you remove it, maybe what will remain will be 40% of what you're paying or 50%. You can now set from this day to this where we're going to remove this component. We've seen a former governor come in and said that somebody, David said, he's tired of making money this way, that he has made enough. I don't think I've ever seen anybody who said he's made enough money. Not even Warren Buffett also, who is involved in investing. So for somebody to say that, it shows you what is happening there. So I would have done all that. And I've said we would have also seen what is happening with the issue of the refineries, not the one of government. Modern refineries that people have set up here and there, which they are complaining that their problem is supply of crude and other things. So that there's a combination of simultaneous you need to do, quite a number of things that would have helped to manage this better and everything. There's a combination of things you would have discussed with people in all the stakeholders that would have made it better. It would still be painful. just like what I said before, that there's a difference between giving you some form of anesthesia before pulling out your tooth and just doing it without anything. There must be a thinking through. It's an economic decision. It's not going to be easy. If it's a return school to the original owners in Anambra State, there were issues with it. People were on strike. The schools were on strike for months. But before we returned it, we made sure that we went through all the beginning to the end to mitigate the problems. For example, saying that all teachers that are employed must be paid by government. They must be maintained by government. That the churches and this thing can no longer run the school. They don't have the resources. There's so many things we put in place that we will continue to do the capital projects. We will continue to do this. But they will take care of the administration and management, but we will support them. I can tell you, I don't know what has changed. At the time I was governor, no state in the north, no state in the east, no state in the west can compare their secondary schools or primary schools with ours. We were the only people where you have secondary schools that have computers, buses, this, everything. Go to those schools today. The infrastructures were rebuilt. We don't own them. Private schools in Anambra State were supplied computers. Private schools in this, so we thought it through. As a governor, I decided that every person, old person in Anambra or does not have any form of pension, the government will pay the person 5,000. You can go and verify what I'm telling you now. Across the whole state, 5,000 every month. I had security in each community employed and paid directly by government in each community. I bought each community vehicle, but this is we are taught through, so I knew it was going to be sustainable. People ask me then, where are you going to get money to do this? I say, look at our calculation. Look at what we are getting. Look at why we're going to do it. What I'm saying is that there are things you do, but you have to be thought through. Stakeholders have to be invited. Other people have to have their inputs. It's not just something, it's not something of courage. Because people say, oh, if you have the courage, there's nothing, you have the courage. If you're determined to do it, you're determined to do it. I say it any day, David, I'll pull people